The king's Indian defense is truly the crown jewel of modern chess strategy. This so-called simple defensive setup here, where we just fianchetto the dark squared bishop, place the knight on f6, and castle the king safely to the short side, actually hides infinite tactical possibilities for winning the game with the block pieces. And that's exactly why it has become the absolute favorite of legendary world-class players like Magnus Carlsen, Garry Kasparov, and Bobby Fischer. All of these grandmasters frequently played the king's Indian defense, and that's a major reason why they became the very best players in the world. Well, that's why, and also because they were really good, right? But if they used it, there must be a reason. In this video, I'm going to show you how to use it with the black pieces, so that you too can finally start building a super strong repertoire and begin winning tournament games nonstop. So let's add it to our repertoire. When can we use the king's Indian defense? Always. That's the great thing about it. Especially when they start with the queen's pawn. When they open with d4, we've basically got everything set up. We can use our king's Indian defense. For example, we can start with knight to f6 instead of playing g6 right away. What's the difference? It's simple. With knight to f6, we prevent them from playing e4 immediately because we're putting pressure on that square. It's that simple. The idea is that now, no matter what they do, we're going to set up our structure. For example, just making this up, okay? c4, we play g6, knight to c3, we play bishop to g7, you see? And there is something you should always, always, always remember when you play the king's line. When they play e4, this is important, okay, friends? Remember this, okay? When they play e4 against you, you must automatically play d6. Why? Because if you castle here, they would play e5, and they'd attack this knight, which wouldn't be comfortable anywhere, you see? If it goes here, they could kick it out, and it would have to end up here. If it goes to this side, they could even trap it. So there's something you should always remember. When they play e4 against you, you should play d6. Chess teacher, can't they still play e5? Well, no, and this is one of the most common mistakes when white players aren't prepared against the king's Indian defense. If here, they play e5 against us, right? It is actually quite as simple as this. I initiate an exchange of these pawns, and now I maneuver my knight to jump to the square here, but not before exchanging queens first. You can see just how easy that is to do, right? I exchange queens, and now I jump with this knight to the g4 square, taking over the whole position, because we're threatening this pawn with two pieces that can't be defended. And on top of that, we're also threatening this f2 square, which would be check, and I'd take the rook. This king won't be able to castle on the next move, ours will. Obviously, this is a fantastically winning position for the black pieces. But of course, it's clear that when they play e4, we already know we have to play d6. Most people don't play e5 because they already know it's a bad move. But anyway, you should know this because if you don't, they'll play it against you and you won't know how to react. So here, they can continue in 1,000 different ways, but our plan is going to be clear. Go for checkmate against the enemy king. This is the main idea for the black pieces. And if we study all the checkmating ideas well, it will be impossible for our opponent to escape from all of them. Because you know what's great? That usually we study something and we say, please, please let my opponent play what I've prepared for. Because if not, we won't know how to continue. Here in the King's Indian, we're going to comprehensively study every single variation, whether they play this line or that one, and exactly how to react. So we'll be prepared in all our games. And that's why it's a lethal weapon that has been instrumental in creating several Grandmasters. Do you know who's an absolute genius with the King's Indian? Grandmaster Mauricio Flores, one of the Grandmasters who in my opinion understands positional chess better than almost anyone in the world. And that's why, before we continue, I have to introduce you to the incredible marvel I've prepared for all of you. I know you've all been waiting for this moment for days, and yes, the day has finally arrived. Grandmaster Mauricio Flores himself, probably the person with the best understanding of positional chess that I know, hasn't just prepared a lesson, as you can see here. He's done something much harder and much more valuable. He's taken one of the pawn structures, one of the most important in chess, which, by the way, is the one we're looking at in today's video. And he's turned it into a winning level. No random examples, no isolated tips. It's a winning model. A system that tells you several things. It tells you how to reach the right positions with both white and black. Look at all of this. See? We have lessons, a ton of video lessons. You can start watching whichever ones you need, and a bunch of puzzle examples that he himself has prepared for you, so you can see if you've understood the position or not, and practice it live. For example, here, see? I tell you, let's practice this move, it's not the right one, so what should you play instead? They're already trying to trade queens with me. If I study the plan well, I know I should do this. Now I really should do this. Do you see it? Understanding it perfectly. Look at all the lessons it has. Also with white and with block, and even more complex positions. What you are currently observing right here is a comprehensive decision-making system you'll need to use once you have arrived at that point, to effectively take full control of the game, exactly what to do step by step to transform any given position into a guaranteed victory. This is exactly what these kinds of strong players do. They don't remember a lesson, instead they recognize a pattern and the plan just comes to them. That's why this isn't a regular masterclass. I recommend you check it out. He's made it for all of you at a really low price. It's a reduced price, okay? You'll see, we already agreed with him that if we did something like this, it had to be at a price everyone could afford, because as you know, Grandmasters are usually out of reach. So for everyone who joins, let me tell you what's included. The complete winning model, explained in all these video lessons. There are more than 20 video lessons, and also all these interactive exercises. The real reasoning of Grandmaster Mauricio Flores turned into practical decisions. The exercises force you to think the way you should during a game, which is important. Also, this is important. There will be future videos added over time, okay? This is absolutely crucial for you to understand, okay? Future videos will be added, and every single person who is already enrolled will have lifetime access included, and everything that gets added will be at absolutely no additional cost to you. And obviously, right? No extra cost for everyone who is already in. So, it's available in Spanish and in English. Why didn't I mention that? This is important. It's available in both Spanish and English. I'll leave it for you both here and down in the description. So, your decision is simple. Either you train seriously with the Grandmaster's method, super important. Plus, he's one of the people I've learned the most from in my life. I can assure you I reached out to him because he was one of the players I've studied the most. Or if you want, you can just keep doing what you've always done. It's your choice. For me, it's a no-brainer. So if you like to join this masterclass on winning models, I'll leave it for you down below in the description. All right, Chessnicker, let's get to the card. The idea is that white always tries to expand with the central pawns. So how should we continue? All right, if they play e5, what should we do? For example, they play knight to f3. Well, we just stick to our simple plan and castle. Do you remember what I told you a moment ago? We castle and keep playing a game. The idea is that here they can play any move, and that's the good thing. It doesn't matter to us. For example, bishop to e2. Our plan is always the same. That's the best thing about this defense. What can we do next? Well, there's a move you should always, always, always remember whenever you play the King's Indian defense. e5? Chess player, you're not losing a pawn here. Please start calculating properly. It's only being defended by one pawn and attacked by two pieces. So what's going on here? The idea is that we can give up this pawn because it can't be captured. If now the white pieces decide to capture this pawn, there wouldn't be any problem, because after recapturing, whether they trade queens or not, okay, it doesn't matter, they're gonna capture this pawn. If they don't trade them, we'll capture them ourselves. It really doesn't matter, okay? And the idea is that now we can make the wonderful move knight takes pawn, while we make a discovered attack on the knight. So we recover the pawn without any problem. And also, it doesn't matter if they trade knights or not, you can review this as many times as you need. We will capture this location, and we currently hold a more advantageous position than our opponents. A better pawn structure. On top of that, we have this bishop controlling the long diagonal, which doesn't let this bishop develop because we would capture the square. We don't let them advance because we would capture the rook. Our other bishop can go straight to f5 to attack a knight that's a bit exposed, and our rook is already ready to join the attack. So this position is an advantage for black. And of course, those of you in the masterclass already know how to always convert this into a win. Now we move on to the best part of the video, how to win all your games with the King's Indian defense. These strategies are going to blow your mind. Alright, if you've been paying attention, all we have to do is castle. And notice that we already have the King's Indian setup completed. We don't have to do anything else. Wasn't that super heavy? Alright, from here on out, all the traps we have available will come into play. For example, a very common mistake. Here from the white pieces, or more than a mistake, a small inaccuracy, is playing bishop to d3. And I see this all the time in games because there are people who haven't really studied the theory. It's totally normal. Not everyone can have all the theory memorized, and that's why these videos help us a lot. Since we play against humans and not perfect computers, we learn how to punish all the mistakes humans make. So how should we continue if they played bishop to d3? Just so you understand, bishop to d3 is a small inaccuracy because it disconnects the queen from the d4 square. The d4 square is a very safe point because it's defended by the knight and the queen. With bishop to d3, it's no longer defended. And notice that we're actually targeting this square indirectly with our bishop. You see it, right? This bishop, once the knight moves, will simply be attacking the d4 square. Alright, so we're going to continue with the next move. Remember, okay, when they play bishop to d3 against us, we're going to bring our bishop out to pin this knight here. Why? Because if you notice, now this pawn is no longer defended by the queen, since the bishop is in the way, and it's no longer defended by the knight because it's pinned. So it's a defenseless pawn. Remember, what we're going to do is fight against this pawn here. Alright, now they can do 1,000 different things, right? But for example, this bishop here might bother them and they might play the following move against us. h3. This move is dangerous, and you need to understand why. Normally, when they play h3 against us, we say, well, I'll just move back and keep the pin. In this case, when we have a fianchetto, that won't work at all, because they'll just push the pawn forward, and this bishop can't keep retreating, so we'd lose the bishop. So you really need to keep one thing in mind. If they play h3, threatening this bishop, it's very simple. The only thing you have to do is trade it for the knight. I know exactly what you're going to say. Chesteker, you're giving up the bishop pair. In this specific situation, it's perfectly fine to give it up. Why is that? Because look, after queen takes bishop, they have to recapture, otherwise they'd be down a piece. Now there's no piece defending this square here. The queen no longer defends, not here or here. And the knight that was defending, we've already eliminated. So now we can keep up our pressure, and this is where we start with the hammer. Boom, boom! Knight to c6 directly attacks the d4 square. And here there are several typical responses. Let's try to cover them all. It's very simple. The most logical one is probably the one you're wondering about. What happens if they push this pawn? Because I'm sure that's what most people will do against me. So we have two very good options. One would be this knight to e5, attacking both the queen and the bishop. A very good choice. And another one that I actually like even more is placing the knight on d4. Why do I like this one more? Well, because aside from attacking the queen, it's practically defended by the other knight once it moves away. And we can also reinforce it with pawns, either the e-pawn or the c-pawn, right? And if they capture en passant, it's no big deal, because we could defend with the other one. You get it? Alright, so it's really simple. This move would leave us with a very good position. However, notice that it's not the only possible move when we play knight to c6, okay? d5 isn't the only option. If they don't play d5, it's easy. You can choose between here or even here, which I actually like more. But what happens, chess teacher, if by attacking this pawn? Well, what they simply do is defend it while developing a piece. Don't tell me this isn't normal. You attack one of my pawns, I develop a piece, and defend it at the same time. Who usually plays bishop to e3? Well, it's the people who realize that by pushing d5, they're leaving very weak squares that we can take advantage of. Very good, bishop to e3. They defend, so how should we continue? Well, now we're going to use logic. Notice that this defense is very simple because you don't have to memorize much, just apply logic. What have we been saying all along? We're working against the d4 square. Which piece attacks it? The knight. What other piece can attack it? The bishop. So for the bishop to attack, we need to move this knight out of the way, right? Well, we just move it out of the way. We don't need to make things complicated. And now we're attacking here and here. Simply, if they push forward, we're in the same situation as before, right? Thank you very much. But what happens then? That here they have yet another way to defend. Knight to e2 defends the pawn. Very good, Chesterker. In here, how should I play? Well, pay attention, because this is already a serious mistake, and we simply have a move that wins material. It's a very, very good move. Let's see if you spot it. The move is to jump with this knight. Knight to e5. Great move. It seems we're giving it away, but we're attacking the queen and the bishop. If the queen moves, we capture the bishop, we win a piece, and on top of that, it's check. They lose castling rights. So notice that the only solution to this move is to take the knight. You see that, right? And once they take the knight, it's very simple. We just capture, and now we're attacking the queen again and attacking the bishop again. So they're back in the same situation. Look, they have to move the queen, and then we would capture this bishop. With check, they should move the king aside. We're also attacking here with two pieces, so when they move the king, whether it's here or here, it doesn't matter. What we'll do is capture here, and not only that, but now we're setting up a discovered attack on the rook. If it moves away, we can take this pawn. Basically, notice that we have 3 extra pawns. The opponent's king hasn't castled, we're attacking this bishop, and our position is 1,000 times better. Remember this, it's really important. Every time they play e4, you simply play d6. Where are you going, crazy? Notice that it's a very simple plan, but very good, Chesterker. Now, whatever white plays, great, I castle and carry out the plan you told me. And we've seen that bishop to d3 was a slight inaccuracy because it stopped defending the d4 square. Alright, Chesterker, when things go the way you explain, that's great, but if they play well and play bishop to e2, which should I do? Because, of course, my whole plan was based on them making this move, which is a slight inaccuracy. Alright, bishop to e2. Notice that. As I always tell you, we should remember the plan and not the exact moves. Alright, so here, if we know our plan, we know we're going to keep doing the same thing. We come to attack this knight. Our idea was never to pin the queen, but rather to bother this knight, possibly to capture it. You know, if they play h3 against us, what are we going to do? Capture it, alright? The plan is going to be very similar. Let's take a look. For example, here they can castle, right? To see that they don't play h3. If they play h3, you already know, you just capture. They can castle to see another option, maybe also very, very logical. And so now, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to make a super surprising plan. Would we have other types of plans available? Better ones? Well, maybe, but the one that works for me is the following. Pay attention, we're going to pull back this knight before bringing out the other one. It's true that I always tell you not to memorize moves, but it's also true that you need to understand that if they play, for example, bishop to e2, in this case, the plan would be to move back before bringing out this knight. Fine. So, if they've played this setup with bishop to e2 instead of bishop to e3, first knight to d7, the knight from f to d7. Why? Well, if you've understood the plan, it's very simple, right? To come and attack this point right here. Super, super easy.
If they attack this bishop, what are you going to do? Well, the same thing as if they attack it, or if they don't, capture this knight. If they don't attack it, you can capture it whenever you want. If they do attack it, then obviously, as soon as they attack, you have no other choice, right? Because we don't have time to retreat it. If we pull it back, we lose the bishop. Very well, they recapture. And now, how can we proceed, Chester? Because this pawn is no longer hanging. It's only attacked by the bishop, and it's defended by the queen. So here we have absolutely no attack. All right, let's see what happens with this pawn. Here, our plan is, pay attention, to play knight to c6. Does that sound familiar? I'm sure it does, because this setup is the same as before. The only difference is that before, we were like this. It made a big difference because this pawn was attacked twice. And now we're like this, where it's well defended. However, pay attention, it's attacked by 2 pieces, only defended by 1, and on top of that, it's the queen defending it. Sorry, the queen is here, but it's the same thing. And now, what should the white pieces do? Well, now it seems pretty clear. They should try to defend it as soon as possible. For example, with bishop to e3, they defend it. And if not, we go back to playing e5, which is our plan. Now, they have no choice but to play d5. If they play d5 directly here when we attack, perfect, we've got what we wanted. But first, they play bishop e3. So what we need to do is play e5 first to put more pressure. Notice something, if they capture, great. You bring in this knight here that wasn't doing anything, you attack this bishop, you attack this pawn, and you have a much better position. Also, this bishop would be exposed. But if they do the logical thing, which is to play d5, we go into our very simple plan. Now, how should we continue? We don't have this jump available, but we do have this jump, which is a spectacular move. We attack the bishop, and on top of that, this knight is excellently placed. It's a fantastic knight. That's why, look, it's controlling all the squares. The queen can't come here, here, or here. They can't do anything. So the most normal thing is for them to take out this knight, which is a very good move. Yes, sir. But notice that when we capture, we end up with two double pawns. And this pawn, which they'll probably be able to recover pretty easily because it's not easy to defend. Very well, I'm sure you all see it. If you are playing the white pieces and you want to recover this pawn, which on top of that, if you win it, it's a free pawn, how would you do it? Well, I'm sure you'd all make the same move. Knight to e2. I attack it with the knight and I attack it with the queen. All right? Well, it seems like a really good move, because now if we try to reinforce it, they would simply capture en passant, and on the next move, they'd capture here. So c5 doesn't work. But here, we have this spectacular hidden move, which is the following: d3. A move that's really, really good. We attack the knight and push the pawn forward. A pawn that we're just giving away, right? We're giving away this pawn. What's going on, chess teacher? Very well. What we're doing now is freeing the bishop to capture this pawn on b2. Notice that it attacks the rook. And if you've played several chess games, you might say, chess teacher, it looks like you got that pawn back, but it's actually very easy to recover. I attack your bishop, and when you move it away, what am I going to do? Well, I just capture this pawn here, right? But this is a serious mistake, because look, we have this knight jump attacking the queen and the rook. Notice that we gave away the pawn on this square precisely to place the queen. And on top of that, when they take back this pawn from us, no matter how many times they fall for this little trap, it doesn't matter at all, because our position is going to be fantastic to play, and we'll be able to put a lot of pressure. Don't worry, this is super important. Notice that our plan was, when they played knight to f3, we would come to pin this knight here. Not to pin it, but to attack it. But of course, chess teacher. Again, at first, if they played bishop to e3, everything was wonderful, right? If they played bishop to e2, we could also carry out our plan. But what happens if they play h3? h3, before playing this knight, forces us not to be able to come here. You see that, right? Why? Because if we come here now and they attack us, we simply exchange and everything is wonderful for us. But if they play h3 right away, what should I do? Well, don't worry, because I also have the solution for you, and you're going to love it. And it's essential that you know it, because if they play h3 and you don't, your whole plan is going to fall apart. And it's a very simple plan that's worth knowing. All right? Very simple. How are we going to continue? We castle. We stick to our plan. We castle. All right? Notice that we always set up the same structure. This one here and d6. Always the same. And now they can play in several ways. Now they're no longer afraid to play knight to f3 because the bishop can't come here anymore. How should I continue, Jestita? Well, we're simply going to play the knight to c6, targeting this square. Notice that these moves don't have to be exact. For example, if they play bishop to e3 first, defending here or developing this bishop is the same. We play knight to c6, attack this square, and they'll probably have to defend it with knight to f3, since playing knight to e2 would trap their own bishop. That's the usual way. Very well. But now our plan of coming here doesn't work. How should I continue? Well, our plan is simply to push e5 directly, all right? As you can see, e5 is a move that also shows up in all the variations. What's the idea? Well, if they capture, that's great for us. Why is this move so powerful? Because it immediately opens up the entire diagonal for our powerful bishop. Take a moment to notice that it is now perfectly placed on the longest diagonal of the whole board. And furthermore, it also completely opens up the vertical file for the rook, which is now pointing directly and menacingly at the opponent's king. We do not really like that. So what other option do we have? If we go here, now our knight is left way behind and cannot get out here or here. But what happens if we jump here? They simply capture us with two pieces and win a pawn. But we are going to put it here, because that is our plan. Notice something. How many pieces are attacking this knight? 1, 2, 3. How many are defending it? Just one, the pawn on e5. So it looks like we are just giving away material in a really, really simple way. But this is our plan. And absolutely nothing happens. Watch. They capture here, we capture back. We are not going to lose the piece. And when they capture again, logically with the bishop, because if they capture with the queen, they are exposing themselves to discovered attacks. They have to capture with the bishop. Then we have a secret move, and you need to know this one, okay? It's really, really simple. Pay attention. Knight takes e4, a spectacular move. taking this pawn, we are getting back the pawn we were down, right? So now we're even in material. But chess teacher, you're going crazy as always. And I'm getting tired of you going crazy in all your videos. But don't worry, because look, we sacrificed this knight, you see? We're not just giving up this knight, but we're setting up a really strong discovered attack here. And even though it's defended by the queen, pay attention to this. When they capture us, we have a move that, if you like chess, is sure to give you goosebumps. I'm sure you're all thinking of moves like rook to e8, attacking this knight and pinning it. Well, no, the move is queen to h4. Check out this move. What it does is create a double attack on the knight and bishop in a straight line. Or rather, along a horizontal line. Super strong. Now we're really threatening it. Rook to e8, pinning this knight here and here. Very good. Are you going crazy in just count? Yes, but there's still ways to save this, right? For example, what happens if they capture this bishop first? Well, now we're going to see. It's really, really simple. If they capture this bishop and even attack our rook, it doesn't matter. Because first, what we need to do is capture this knight with check, so they're forced to defend against the check. And then we'll capture this bishop, winning a piece. Notice that we've recovered the knight, and then we'll recover this bishop here. Now, if they block with the queen, we simply trade the knight. And what we need to do is capture this knight with check, and we recover the bishop. If they block with the bishop, we don't recover the bishop right away. Instead, I recommend first taking the pawn with the queen, attacking the rook. If they capture our rook, that's a mistake for white. Because look, they take the rook, we capture with check, and then we would capture the bishop. So they have to move the rook away. And now, with all the cold blood in the world, we capture this bishop, and notice the difference in position and the extra pawn we have here. And on top of that, they can't defend this pawn with anything. We're attacking it with both the queen and the bishop. It's a total bargain of a position for us. Oh, and super important, if when we capture this pawn, they don't take our knight, but instead capture this bishop first, you need to keep this in mind. How should we play? Should we capture the bishop first or the knight first? Well, neither of the two. We move the rook and place it on e8, aiming at the king. That way we're threatening knight takes knight with a discover check. If, for example, they say, I want to move the bishop back, simply knight takes knight wins the game. Check. And when they block, whether with the bishop or the queen, it doesn't matter to us. We would capture the queen with a knight. So what happens is that when we play rook to e8, they can't move the bishop away. Instead, they have to defend against this discovered attack, for example, with the bishop. It doesn't matter to us because we're going to recapture this bishop here. And notice that we've regained the pawn we had given up, but we're in a much better position. We've destroyed their center, and our pieces are way more active. Look, our king is safe, our rook is aiming at their team. This knight is in a much better position. If they capture, we recapture with the rook. This bishop can come into play. The queen as well, we can trickle out. In short, even though they didn't fall for the trap, we're still in a much better position. This little trick I'm about to show you will be super useful for everyone, but especially for those of you with a bit more experience. By a bit more experience, I mean, for example, 1600, 1700, 1800 rating, or even much higher. Why? Because this comes up in the Samish variation of the King's Indian defense. Alright, it could be that they play this move because they're really good and know this variation, or maybe they're just afraid you'll bring your bishop in here. Either way, the variation works the same. The idea is to play bishop to e3 and keep this strong central structure, alright? This is called the Samish variation. But don't worry, because I have a fantastic plan to win in this variation. It's a very dangerous variation, okay? But you need to know how to fight against it. I'm not even speaking clearly anymore. Sorry, too many hours recording for you guys. Here, what we're going to do is play the move e5. It's a move we've been playing pretty much the whole time. If they capture, as always, thank you, right? They capture, we recapture, and even as queens are exchanged, we have a rook on the open file. But usually they push forward, okay? This is the traditional move in the Samish variation. It opens up the bishop, alright? Notice this bishop can move here or there. What is white's plan? To swap bishops via q2 and place it here, as in the Dragon Sicilian. It's a dangerous plan, but we need to know how to fight it. Here, the typical move is a5. Why? Because what we want is to bring the knight to a6, and then bring it to c5, a square where it's really, really strong. However, here they could kick it out with before, and this knight would have to move. That's why you play f5 first, to prevent this b4. White's plan. You already know it, I just told you. Queen to d2 to exchange this very strong bishop. You already know that this bishop is way too powerful in the King's Indian defense, because it's the one that protects the king. If this bishop disappears, the dark squares are on the castle team. The squares are way too weak, and it would be way too easy for them to break in. Imagine this bishop isn't here. They come in through here, they break through with the rook, with the queen. All right, so we really need to keep this bishop well protected. They play queen to d2. We go knight to a6. That's what we want to do. And they come to exchange this bishop. The logical plan in this defense here, how should we play? Well, pay attention, because I'm going to show you a trap. Notice that this position might seem hard to reach, but it's a classic position in the King's Indian defense. If you play against someone who knows a bit, notice that we have the brutal move, knight. Where are you going, crazy? To e4, sacrificing the knight. Once again, the sacrificing knight. This square is totally defended by pawn and by knight, and it doesn't matter what they capture with, because now we have a secret move here. It looks like we're not doing anything, but what we're actually doing is we've captured with the knight to clear the way for the queen. Queen to h4 check. And our idea is that whatever they do, we're going to recapture this bishop here. If they block with the knight or with the pawn, it doesn't matter to us because we take here. Even if they trade queens, that's even better because we'll be left with an endgame with an extra pawn. What's the result? We end up with a strong center, we keep a solid defense, we haven't lost this bishop. On top of that, we have an extra pawn, and that's not all. The opponent's good bishop was also the black squared one, so we end up with a position that's 1,000 times better. Just teacher, and there's no way you can finish this video on the King's Indian defense without mentioning the fearsome 4 pawns attack, which I'm 100% sure you all know about. And if not, just take a look. It's called the 4 pawns attack. Pay attention, I'm going to reveal the secret to you. It's because they've advanced 4 pawns. Alright, so here, what we're simply going to do is castle, just as usual. They'll play knight to f3, which is the main line, and we'll play knight to a6 without wasting time on a5. In this variation, look at, they're very overextended. We don't have time to play a5 because nothing happens if they play here. We just capture. For now, there's no problem. But since we know they're going to advance, we already have the knight looking at this spot here. And pay attention, because they wouldn't have time to come here since we're attacking this point with 2 pieces. That's the plan, okay? Quickly, so you don't get bored and you understand it perfectly. All right, here, no matter what they do, it doesn't matter to us because we want to break with n5 right away. A move that's really strange. We always want to play it. If you've been paying attention, you know we always play this 5, but now it looks like we're just giving it away. Why? Because they're attacking with 1, 2, 3 pieces, and it's only defended by 1. So, chess teacher, what are you planning here? What's going on? Well, it's very simple. When they capture us, obviously we're going to recapture, and now they have 2 options. Capture with the pawn or capture with the mate. Capturing with the pawn is a mistake. Why? Because we simply trade queens. It doesn't matter to us what they take with, for example, with the bishop to keep defending this point. And now we come here and we're going to recover this pawn easily. You see? So there's no problem. And on top of that, they end up with some very weak pawns, a position that's 1,000 times better for us. We open up the diagonal for the bishop, so it's a complete mistake to capture with this pawn here. Let's just put things back as they were. The queen's here, the bishop going wild, and now this over here. So they should capture with the knight, you see, right? I'm acting weird today, huh? And when they capture with the knight, what should we do, folks? And folks, are we out of options? Not at all, don't worry, because now we're going to take advantage of, look at this, our opponent doesn't have good development. They have more pawns, but their development is poor. Our bishops are like beasts, our queen too, our rook as well. What we're going to do is play c5, a star move to strike at the center. If they capture, they lose the knight. Let's see, Chesquachara, focus. If this knight here is missing, nothing is lost. Okay, let's go back. They captured this pawn here. No, they didn't capture this pawn here with the knight, which is the right move. And now we're going to play c5. What I was saying is, if they capture here, it's not that we capture this knight. I was going crazy because I thought I had left the knight hanging. It's that first we can trade queens or not, it doesn't matter, but we can recover it with the knight. We would be attacking here twice, and by moving this knight, we would indeed be attacking over here, and this would be a really bad move, okay, for the white pieces. All right, so what happens if they push forward? What's the other option? Well, if they push forward, what we have to do, remember, is knight takes e4. If they capture here, we simply take with the bishop. You see it, right? Super simple. And then we end up in a really good position. And on top of that, we're threatening this here, check, and we take the knight. So a normal move here, since we're even on material, is to castle. And here they've lost the game because once again, there's this threat of queen to h4, threatening here and threatening the knight. We're going to checkmate on the neutral, or almost checkmate. If they try to defend with a knight, we capture with the bishop. When they capture us, we capture with the queen. In our position, not only do we have a material advantage, but it's infinitely better. We're threatening to come in through here, we're threatening to bring the rooks to the center. Well, our position is an absolute steal. However, in Chess Teacher, they rarely capture here. Most of the time they advance, and that's why this knight makes so much sense. Because we put it here, look, we're attacking this d4 square with two knights. Super, super strong. And now what? How can they defend it? Do they have any way? Well, of course the most logical is queen to c2, but that does not stop anything, because we can just sacrifice our knight here since there are tactics as always. Knight takes knight, it looks like they have won, right? And now, instead of capturing, because they would capture us, we have bishop to f5, pinning this piece here. We're going to get it back, but they still have some resources, Nokif. Bishop to d3 to block the pin, and we simply come here, we exchange. When they exchange, we don't go here, important, but instead we play f5. And notice that here we've already recovered the piece. They have to retreat, and now we play e4. We win either the bishop or the knight, and on top of that, when we capture, we'll deliver this check here. And we've also opened up this really strong diagonal for the bishop. Brutal or what? For all of you who want to start studying seriously, don't hesitate. Check out the masterclass that Grandmaster Mauricio Flores has prepared for you. You have it right down here in the description. I know you're eager to start learning it too. If you love it, let's go. Come on. I recommend it 100%. I hope you love this video. If you have any questions, you can contact us. And we'll see you tomorrow in the next video, friends. Goodbye.